think we have almost everyone. Okay, very good. We got some other celebrities in the back. I'm glad you guys are here. Excellent. Well, thank you for your patience. Good morning, everybody. I'm San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. With me this morning is City Council Member Kent Lee, who is the chair of the City Council's Active Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Also joined by our Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan, our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Chris McFadden, who oversees our Transportation and Engineering and Capital Projects departments. And from our ENCP department, we have Director Rodney Amon, who's here, along with some members of her team. And, of course, our Transportation Director, there he is. He's so tall, it's hard to miss. Jorge Riveros, who's our Transportation Director, also some members of his team. It's always good to see our transportation folks here at City Hall. Today, I'd like to provide San Diegans with an update on the city's progress in repairing and improving San Diego's streets, which include sidewalks and streetlights, as well as the roads themselves. Now, as many of you know, these last several weeks, I have directed a particular emphasis, an all-hands-on-deck approach, if you will, on filling potholes across the city. Since the heavy rains of January and early February, our crews have filled approximately 17,000 potholes. Now, even with that work, our backlog has reached as high as 2,200 pending complaints. Now, our great teams in transportation have worked hard to respond to those requests, and we narrowed that backlog down to about 300 as of last week. But because San Diegans are doing exactly what we want them to do, which is to report the potholes they see in the community through the via the Get It Done app, we're back up to about 550 pending complaints. And, of course, this week's storms, which are expected to grow that number, and that's okay. We are going to continue to do what we've been doing, which is deploy extra workers on pothole duty, specifically 30 teams on weekdays, 11 on Saturdays, and 7 on Sundays. And this will keep up throughout as is necessary to make sure that backlog gets addressed. Here's where I want to just give my appreciation to those workers. I joined them a few Saturdays back to watch them do their good work. They're hardworking city employees, and I appreciate every single one of them. Now, while we're filling potholes on a consistent basis is definitely a good and necessary thing to do, we will not lose focus on the fact that we have miles of roads that need full repaving. We are not going to lose sight of that. We are going to keep fixing the damn roads. Now, by the end of this fiscal year, we are on pace to repair more than 260 miles of roads across the city. This includes 63 miles of overlay, which is where we grind down the existing asphalt and replace it with new asphalt. This is what San Diegans get really excited about. The mayor gets excited about it too. Specifically, what is happening right now on Park Boulevard in Balboa Park is an example of this. And soon, and specifically in March, we're scheduled to start work on other main thoroughfares like Convoy Street in Kearny Mesa and La Jolla Parkway, obviously in La Jolla. In all, there'll be more than 200 street segments planned for overlay, ranging from less than 1/10 of a mile to as long as 2.5 miles, again, all around the city. This includes Division Street in the Valencia Park and Encanto area, Roselle Street in Sereno Valley, Camino Ruiz in Mira Mesa, Genesee Avenue in Linda Vista, Meadowbrook Drive in Skyline, West Point Loma Boulevard, and Highland Valley Road and Paseo del Verano Norte in Rancho Bernardo. In addition to those overlay miles, we have plans to complete 200 miles of slurry seal, which is more of a kind of maintenance, if you will, that extends the useful life of our streets during the remainder of the fiscal year. Now, contributing to our road repair efforts will be my proposed updates to our city's street preservation ordinance. This holds both private and public utilities, including the city's own utilities, accountable when we dig up our streets. My proposed updates will require anyone who excavates, let me say that one more time. My proposed updates will require anyone who excavates in our public right-of-way to leave the roadway in as good or better condition than they found it. And importantly, they fit the bill for it. I'm pleased to tell you that these updates have cleared the City Council's Active Transportation and Infrastructure Committee on a unanimous vote and will soon be before the City Council for their consideration. In 2024, with the passage of this proposed ordinance, we anticipate that the street preservation ordinance alone will be responsible for 25 miles of repaired roadways in the city of San Diego. Now, what is key to our ongoing efforts to keep the roads in good conditions is making sure that we prioritize the streets that need the most urgent attention. And that's why we're on track to complete a street condition assessment in our city. The city's last condition assessment was completed back in 2016. That was a long time ago. And we're long overdue for a new one. We have secured a contractor to do this work, and I'm announcing today that they will begin collecting fresh data on all 2,800 miles of roads of city streets beginning on March 1st and complete their work sometime this fall. The results from this survey will give us updated and accurate picture of the state of our city streets and help us to refine a long-term pavement management plan to prioritize our limited funding for repairs and give communities information about when repairs can be expected in their community. Now, I've done a lot of talk about our physical roadways and the need for those repairs, but it's also important that we broaden the aperture of this conversation to consider other repairs to keep our streets safe and accessible to all. Key to doing this is to address the backlog of broken streetlights across our city. Now, let me just tell you, I hear a lot from San Diegans about the conditions of our roadways, no question, but I also hear a whole lot about streetlights as well. I will tell you, I see it firsthand myself. As I walk around my own community, the number of streetlights that are out are unacceptable. And right now, our backlog of streetlights that are broken is at about 5,900 and growing. The main reason for this is that we simply do not have enough electricians working for the city to keep up with the demand. And this will certainly be a part of our budget discussions as we prepare the 2024 fiscal year budget, but I'm not willing to wait that long to get results for San Diegans. And so I'm announcing today that we have reached an agreement with our employee labor groups on a one-year plan to use private sector electricians to help reduce our streetlight backlog. We are anticipating that this will result in roughly 800 additional streetlights being repaired over 1 year. The bottom line is that we need to catch up. We have to address this backlog. And while we're doing that, we can focus on hiring more city electricians to maintain streetlights going forward. This is where I want to plug that we will have a city hiring fair in Balboa Park in March. Encourage anyone who wants to work for the city of San Diego to check that event out. We'll get you some more details on that soon. Now, turning to our sidewalks, we recently performed a sidewalk assessment to find locations throughout the city that are in badly need of repair, and we're currently in the process of analyzing that information and programming repair projects. By this summer, we will begin repairs on an estimated 175,000 square feet of sidewalk in 1,450 separate locations and communities across the city. I could share with you that our transportation department will soon be initiating 3 key new sidewalk projects. In Pacific Beach, at Garnett and Everett Street, a high pedestrian traffic area where we'll install bulb outs to improve pedestrian safety by narrowing the roadway and providing additional pedestrian space and visibility. In Paradise Hills, on Albemarle Street, where new sidewalks will help improve pedestrian access to local transit stops, the post office, and a nearby shopping plaza on Rio Drive. And in Edgar Highlands, down in South San Diego, where a new sidewalk on Elm Avenue will improve pedestrian access to schools and a local daycare center. As I noted in my State of the City address back in January, this year we will roll out new procedures to make it easier and cheaper for residents and business owners to repair their sidewalks in front of their property. Our goal is to dramatically reduce the permit fees from the current $2,200 to closer to $200 and to remove unnecessary regulatory steps to speed up this process. And we'll go a step even further by establishing a city-managed contract to assist property owners with repairs more efficiently and more cost-effectively. Finally, I want to close with a project that some of you have already shared with San Diegans, but I want to share a little bit more. I want to close by announcing that residents and visitors in downtown will soon see work beginning on the 5th Avenue Promenade, a long-term project to close 5th Avenue from Broadway to K Street in the Gaslamp Quarter to vehicular traffic from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. I want to thank in particular the Metropolitan Transit System Board and specifically City Council Member and MTS Vice Chair, Councilmember Stephen Whitburn, for the commitment they recently made to working with the City of San Diego to reroute buses in this important part of our community to ensure that we can close the street safely and efficiently. In March, we will begin installing the bollards that will prevent cars from accessing the street so that people can safely stroll along the avenue and past the outdoor dining experiences into what will eventually become over time a beautiful pedestrianized promenade. With all of that updates, I'm happy to turn this podium over to my partner on issues of infrastructure. As I mentioned, he's the chair of this council's Committee on Infrastructure and the council member for District 6, Councilmember Kent Lee. Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mayor Gloria. Thank you, Mayor, for your focus on the top infrastructure issue for so many San Diegans, which is our streets. As chair of the San Diego City Council's Infrastructure Committee, let me make this clear. I want the city to make streets our #1 infrastructure priority. And I look forward to the Infrastructure Committee working with Mayor Gloria on a comprehensive plan for improving San Diegans' roads. That means slurry seal, it means asphalt overlays, it also means filling your potholes, as we've heard an update on. While we've made significant ongoing progress, as the mayor has shared, we also know that we have significant work ahead of us. We need roads that work. We need roads that are paved. And we need roads that get you to where you need to go, without a flat tire, without a ruined alignment or more. And I share in every resident's frustration because, in fact, even in the last 6 months alone, I and our family has had to replace 2 tires thanks to San Diego's roads. So how do we make this happen? Yesterday, our Infrastructure Committee outlined our work plan for the year, and we committed to working with the mayor to develop a comprehensive strategic approach addressing our city's ability to finance, maintain, and operate its major infrastructure assets, including not only our streets and roads, but also our streetlights, sidewalks, and much more. This is important to San Diegans, and so I want you to know what's coming next. As the mayor shared, the committee is actually currently awaiting a critical update to our city's outdated pavement assessment condition index, meaning that we will have this chance to map every road in San Diego, more than 2,800 miles of streets, to identify which ones need the most urgent action, as well as the action that's needed and the best way to actually fix them. Thanks to Mayor Gloria, this information will be presented to the Infrastructure Committee, and this data, coupled with the Council's updated prioritization plan, as well as its continued commitment of budgeted dollars to streets, will allow us to actually develop a strategic approach to fixing streets, streetlights, sidewalks, and more. We also want to commend the mayor on updating the Streets Preservation Ordinance, keeping private utility companies, as well as even our own public works, accountable for when they tear up our roads, and to return them to the standard that our residents need and demand. Again, our committee's efforts with the mayor will extend beyond just streets, as the same desire to strategically align our city's need with identified priorities as well as funding should be applied to everything, including streetlights, sidewalks, and more. We appreciate the mayor's prioritization, for example, of streetlights in his latest proposal and the desire to actually identify private electricians to address the backlog of more than 5,900 streetlights. Ultimately, our collective action is necessary not only to deliver functional streets that our residents demand and deserve every single day, it also just makes financial sense. When we pave a street before it falls apart, or we deliver on long-awaited repairs in our local neighborhoods, it saves San Diegans money. Next, I'd like to introduce our city's Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan, who came to the city of San Diego from Houston with decades of experience in public works. His experience in infrastructure investment is certainly welcomed. Eric, I'm excited to working with you moving forward as well.
Thank you, Council Member. First of all, let me say thank you all for being here today. It's really great to have a mayor and council member that's truly supportive of our efforts to improve our infrastructure for this great city. Understand that this is not an overnight solution, but this is a plan. And the great part is that we have been planning this for a while. You've heard the mayor, you heard the council members state that we have a consultant coming on board next week to start the assessment, which hasn't been done in over 7 years. But the best way to have a plan is to have good data. And once you got good data, you can then develop and enhance your plan on which we're going to tackle the streets and identify priorities, making sure that we're being equitable and equal in everything that we do when it comes to identifying the areas that we're going to target. And then it's a matter of execution. And you know, we got our engineer, we got our transportation director, we got the team in place in which we're going to execute this plan. I will ask that you, one, be patient with us, because this will not happen overnight. Two, that as you see people working in the right of way, you see people working on your streets, that you be cautious of the fact that we have employees that wants to go home safe to their families. So be respectful and give them the thumbs up, not the other finger, for letting them know that, hey, we're working to improve the quality of life in this city. But last but not least, I ask for all of your support and understanding that this is not going to be a cheap or inexpensive process. This is going to take resources, this is going to take funding, and I'm counting on the administrative the administration to give us the resources needed with your support to make sure that we can make our streets the type of street where you can drive down the street with a cup of coffee in your hand and pass the citizen test of not wasting any in your lap. So thank you very much for your time, your energy, your effort. Mayor, appreciate working with you.
Thank you, sir. See why I hired this gentleman, right? Why the council confirmed him as well. And I'll just tell you, Eric is emblematic of all of the employees who are here and the folks who are literally out right now doing the work of keeping our roadways safe and in good condition. And I want to just conclude by, again, my appreciation to all of them for the work. Many of us are looking forward to staying out of the rain. A lot of our folks, well, not the journalists who are here, so you guys have to go cover this stuff, but a lot of our folks are going to be out this weekend removing down trees, clearing storm drains, making sure that property and life are preserved during this rainstorm. And so in advance of that, y'all told me it was going to be here by now. It hasn't arrived yet, but we believe you it's on its way. When it does arrive, understand the city is prepared to respond to it, and to every employee that's going to be pulling an overtime shift, going to be away from their family, going to be out in that rain, you have your mayor and your city council's definite appreciation for what you do. With that, happy to answer any questions folks may have.
Twitter is full of brilliant engineers, and they will always complain that, the slurry seal, these little pothole fixes are a waste of money.
Yeah. Well, I love the way you present the question. For those who couldn't hear it, question was about the concerns about whether or not potholes or slurry seals are really sufficient. And, for a lot of our streets, they're not, but those are not the streets that we're slurry sealing, right? Slurry seal is, think of it like maybe like an oil change for your car, right? It's preventative maintenance. It is not overlay, which is a total tune-up, right? It's a total change. We do slurry seal. One of the complaints I often hear is you slurried a street that looked fine, but you didn't do anything to the street that's in terrible condition. Well, that actually makes sense, right? We slurry streets that are in decent condition in order to keep them in good condition long term. We have to remove and overlay the streets that are in bad condition. The cost difference on that, to what Mr. Dargan was just talking about, is exponential. It is far less expensive to slurry seal a street, but we get more money out of it, right? It stays in good repair longer. With regard to potholes, we will address safety concerns in the community with the priority they deserve. Potholes are a safety threat, right? Not just to drivers, not just to maybe spilling a little coffee in your lap, but it can be dangerous to property in terms of the repairs that are necessary. It's also a threat to pedestrians and cyclists for whom they could actually get hurt because the pothole's there. So when we go out and do potholes, that's an emergency response. As you heard, our team is doing a killer job responding to that. For everyone who says, yeah, I haven't gotten mine yet, my question to them is, have you reported it? Most of the time they have not. We're not clairvoyant. You have to tell us which ones are out there. Trust and know when the mayor's going around town, I have my phone out and I'm reporting all the ones that I can find safely. Don't get in the middle of the street during traffic, but safely. I ask for people's partnership, and what I'm heartened by is the San Diegans have responded. As I've mentioned, the backlog has actually ticked up a bit because folks are utilizing the app. Jorge's team is out in the streets actually filling those potholes, but these are really separate things. One is a long-term investment overlay, one is about maintenance, that's slurry seal, and one's about emergency response, that's potholes. These are all three different tools that we have in our toolbox. Ultimately, as you've heard mentioned, we want smooth, safe roads in every neighborhood. We're not there right now, but you've heard whether it's the plan to survey all of our streets for the first time in years, to the commitment that's in this year's budget, and I hope to be able to do more in this coming budget on road repair, both overlay and slurry. We're trying to get the job done. We ask for public's patience and for their partnership in reporting what they see out there. Other questions, comments?
Where was this press conference planned initially?
On a Division Street in Canto and Valencia Park. If you go out there, not acceptable. And I appreciate that question and the opportunity to talk about it. I think that sometimes there's a belief that we're in any way content with these conditions. Far from. I know there are a few people more frustrated than Mr. Riveros, Mr. McFadden, Ms. Amon for the conditions that are out there, and we are going to be dogged in addressing this. You heard the council member, you've heard me say, homelessness, streets, these are the two top priorities of our administration. We never have enough resources to tackle them. That's why we have to get the data to make sure we use your limited tax dollars more efficiently. But if we were standing out on Division Street right now, as we had originally intended, I would be apologetic to every resident and business owner that's on that street. It's not in good condition, but the good news is, as I mentioned, an overlay of that street is only a few weeks away. So relief is coming to those folks, but that is not mission accomplished. It's a recognition that we have a lot more division streets in this city, and this administration is going to do our level best to tackle it. Anyone else? Currently. Division Street, the corner. Do you have a corner, Dave?
58th and Division.
58th and Division.
There are three segments of Division Street that are scheduled to be repaired.
Let's get you some more of that information, Carly.
Thank you. 58th and Division is good.
Okay. I liked your op-ed in the paper today. It's good stuff. Yeah. Who else? The mayor can read. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, easy enough. Thank you all again for being here. Again, a shout out to our employees who are doing the hard work, and a request of San Diegans, report what you see using the Get It Done app. We've got an amazing team of professionals who are able to get the job done when we know what's out there. And as Mr. Dargan mentioned, please be careful when you're going out there. We have a lot of folks out in the roadway. They want to go home and see their families, and you can help doing that by slowing down. Our firefighting department put out a list of 6 recommendations. I'm a native San Diegan, so I think I can say this. Slow down. Okay? Slow down. Turn your lights on. You'll get there eventually. But we want folks to get home safely, our employees and average San Diegans who just want to go about living in the best city in the world. So, guys, thank you again for your time and attention. Thanks for letting us lay out what's going on. And I look forward to telling you more about this as we pass the street preservation ordinance, as we get that data back on the survey, as we start laying some new asphalt in various communities across the city. You might even see me out in some work boots. Remains to be there. We'll see you guys out there. Thank you very much for being here today. Be safe. Let's do it. Go get. Where you headed? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good.
Councilman, thank you for. I'm sorry we didn't have any questions. Step forward to answer.